and welcome very much to this live postgraduate taught question and answer session here in the College of Arts and Humanities. I'm Dr. Adele Redhead, and I'm here to chair this session because I'm Deputy Dean of Learning, Teaching and Student Experience with responsibility for postgraduate taught students in the college. We do really like our long titles in Glasgow. And I'm joined here today by several students and as a member of staff from the School of Critical Studies at the university. And I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves, but first a very brief visual description of myself. I'm a white woman in her late 40s, and I'm wearing black with a colourful scarf around my neck. Now I'm going to go to Angela, who is the member of staff. Angela.
Hi, everyone. Just for a short visual description of myself, I'm a woman in my late 30s wearing big glasses, and I have a yellow sweater on today.
Thank you very much. Now we're going to go to our students. So if you could introduce yourself and say what degree you're on, but also give a brief visual description of yourself. We'll go first to Katie.
Hi, my name is Katie Farr. I am in the English Language and Linguistics specific track of the English Language and Linguistics Master's Program. I am in my late 20s. I'm white. I am wearing a blue top and I have green headphones and large glasses on.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. Alexandra.
Hi there, my name is Alexandra Hetherington. I'm a postgraduate taught student in the Speech, Language, and Sociolinguistics track for the ELL program. And for a visual description, I am a white woman in my mid-20s, and I'm wearing a dark green top.
Okay, thank you very much. And last but most certainly not least, Jingyi.
Hi everyone, my name is Xinyi, and I'm a Chinese girl in my 20s, and I'm in a pink hoodie now, and pink is my favorite color. Thank you.
That's great. I love pink as well. So that's smashing. Thank you very much. A reminder that if you have any questions that you'd like us to address, please do put them in the chat and then we'll get to them. But first off, I'd just like to start with a very brief question of my own. So all of you three students are doing different degrees. I wonder if you could tell us a little bit about the first degree that you did and then the transition from your undergraduate degree to this postgraduate degree. So we're going to go first to Alexandra.
Yeah, I did my undergraduate degree in Texas. That was in linguistics with a minor in social and behavioral studies. In that degree, it was a pretty broad spectrum of choices for where we could focus in linguistics, but my interests were always in sociolinguistics, so that really strongly influenced my choice for this program, the Speech, Language, and Sociolinguistics Masters.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. Xingyi?
Okay, so during my undergraduate period, I'm an English major student, but we have three attributions, and I choose the linguistic one and also finish my dissertation and BA thesis especially on the second language teaching. So in my postgraduate program, I also choose a lot of courses that relate to my undergraduate interests. So I think that makes the link more smooth, I think.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. And finally, Katie.
Yeah, so I did my undergraduate degree in French and Francophone studies in the United States. And then I took some time off between getting my degree and deciding what I really wanted to do and potentially applying for graduate school. I took about 6 years where I worked in a library at an academic university in the States. And during that time, just, it really was clear to me that I was really interested in linguistics, which was not a part of my undergraduate degree. And I had a passion for it. And so I started looking around, found this program, and what I liked and kind of similarly what bridged the gap, what formed the link was there are folks in this department that work specifically in digital humanities. And that was a lot of the work that I was doing in my 6 years, in between undergrad and this degree. So it was just like a combination of two of my largest interests.
That's brilliant. And three, I think, very inspirational and interesting reasons for choosing the degrees of study that you're on. Now, I said at the start that this was concentrating on critical studies, so the School of Critical Studies within the College of Arts. Angela, I wonder if you can tell our audience a little bit about what that means. What is critical studies?
Sure, yeah. So in the School of Critical Studies, we have our different subject areas, and English language and linguistics is one of those. We also have in the School of Critical Studies English literature, Scottish literature, and theology. So all of those subject areas work together under that heading of the School of Critical Studies. Within English language and linguistics specifically, I think this means a critical and evaluative stance on everything that language is, everything that language does in society. So that's a really brief overview, I guess, of what that term refers to for us.
Yeah, that's smashing. And one of the things that students and potential students are always really interested in is what happens next. Now, of course, Katie and Alexandra and Jingyi, you maybe have your eye on where you'd like to go, what you'd like to do with your degree. So I'm going to ask you for an idea of what your dream job might be in a moment. But Angela, could you talk a bit about students on similar degrees and where they've gone, so what sort of destinations they've gone to when they finished with us?
Yeah, thanks, Adele. I think that's a really good question. So I think what's fantastic about a master's degree in English language and linguistics is that it can offer the opportunity to go on to so many different professional pathways. So I think that what we see our graduates going on to do are different professional roles that are all underpinned by that critical understanding of what language is and what language does in society. So this can be so many different things. I think different kinds of roles in education is one of the key ones. So we have lots of our graduates going on to roles in education at all levels, primary, secondary, higher education as well. It can be things related more to language education a bit more generally, so things to do with textbook development, or it could be things to do with lexicography, so the people who work on dictionaries develop dictionaries. It could be working in the field of statistics, so particularly those who are on Alexandra's degree path, which is the MSc in Speech, Language and Sociolinguistics. There's a really strong emphasis on that degree program specifically on statistical methods and statistical inquiry. So that sets students up really well for, again, a number of different professional pathways. It can be things related to media as well. So having an understanding of how language works, how language can be manipulated for persuasive purposes, for example, in advertising, opens up a number of different roles as well. And of course, some of our students go on to do PhD study as well. So some of our students coming out of their postgraduate talk program will go straight into a professional role, so straight into the workplace. For other students, continuing their education onto a PhD is something that is right for them. So we have a real breadth, I think, of expertise across our graduates since I've been working here over the last 5 years from what I've seen.
Yeah, that's great hearing of the sorts of jobs that your graduates go into. So now I'm going to ask the students, what would your dream destination be when you finish here? So we'll start with Jingyi first.
Well, as for me, I think I had a clear goal of my future career, that is delve myself into the education, especially teaching English for students in China. So I'll just work more in this period and just help more with my future development.
That's great. Katie.
Yeah, so I think I actually have a little bit of like a less clear vision of exactly what it is I want to do after this. Right now, I'm trying to just make the most of the program and like learn as much as I can and see what fits. And I think one of the things that I'm most enjoying about the program is the fact that, I get to have, nice relationships with the professors that teach in the program, and I get to ask them questions about like their path and what's possible for me given my specific sort of more niche interests. So I have a couple of ideas, but nothing that I feel like is super solidified. I'm sorry to folks if that's not necessarily the best response, but at the same time, I do want to be honest about still figuring it out.
Yeah, and it's still really, really early, and it's probably quite unfair of me to be asking you when you're just a few weeks into your study, like, what do you want to do next?
It's okay.
But that said, I'm still going to ask Alex, unfair as the question might be. Alex, what do you know what you want to do next?
My answer is similar to Katie's, and it kind of goes back to the fact that I think a lot of us are here as sponges at the moment, kind of just trying to soak in all of the inspiration and knowledge we possibly can. But I think also linguistics is inherently such an intersecting field. You can combine it with so many different things. And sociolinguistics in specific, for me, I find it really interesting for its implications with curriculum design. So I plan ideally to find some kind of work implementing sociolinguistics into like an educational design.
Really interesting. Some really, really interesting ideas there. And it's almost making me rethink my career plans. So that's really good. We can tell as you talk that we've got a variety of different accents. So I'm going to ask the students firstly where you're from, and then I'm going to ask Angela about the profile of students. So it's been wonderful to see in the chat everyone saying where they're from. So it's great to see people from all across the world, from sort of Zambia to Indonesia and so on. So that's great. So I'm going to ask the students where they're from, and then Angela to tell us a little bit about the student body or the student cohort. So we'll start with Katie.
Yeah, so I'm from the US. I came directly from Ohio. That's where I was living before this. But I grew up on the East Coast of the US in a state called Connecticut.
Okay, that's great. Alexandra.
I'm also from the US. I grew up in North Carolina, between North Carolina and Texas, but I don't have a southern accent for some reason.
Okay, good. Jingyi?
I'm from China, especially in the northern part of China. My hometown is Xi'an. It's a really historical city, and I think it has a really similar climate with UK here. So I just got so easily adjust to the weather here.
Yeah, and that's something we might talk about a bit later is Glasgow as a city and what Glasgow is like to study in. But first we'll come to Angela. And Angela, if you could tell us a little bit about where your students come from.
Yeah, sure. Well, I'll say a little bit about myself first of all. So my accent, I think, is also a little unusual. I was born and brought up in Australia, but then have lived for a long time in Scotland as well. So yeah, different experiences of Anglophone context for me. And I think that explains the way that you're hearing me speak today. And I think this is a really relevant question, particularly for students who are considering a degree within our subject area of English language and linguistics, because that variation that exists across human language, across one language such as English, but across all human languages, is something that underpins, I think, the teaching in every single one of our option courses, every single one of the subfields that we look at within English language and linguistics. So, for example, I teach subjects relating to language education, and I've got 3 students here today who are currently taking one of my courses about second language acquisition. And in our class, we always talk a lot about our own experiences of first language acquisition, second language acquisition, the role, as Alexandra has mentioned, the relevance of sociolinguistics within aspects of language teaching as well. So our own linguistic histories and linguistic repertoires are really relevant as part of all of the teaching that we do in our subject area. To specifically answer Adele's question about the diversity of our student cohort, so as you can see from the people that we have on the screen today, we have students who are from the UK and the US, so people who we might typically refer to as native English speakers. We have students who are native speakers of Mandarin and also have learned lots of other languages as well. We have speakers of Arabic, of Indonesian, I believe. I'm trying to think of some others. I believe Spanish speakers as well. So we have a huge amount of linguistic and cultural diversity. We have students from across the world who take our programs. And as I say, we build in this diversity into the way that we teach. It becomes a really relevant part of the content that we discuss in all of our classes.
Yeah, that's great. That's really interesting. And certainly I know from the postgraduate talk program that I convene, which is in a different school, that it's seeing that the way that students from different cultures and different academic backgrounds all come together and they're working towards the one goal. And that's really inspiring, but also there's so much that you can learn from each other. And I think that's especially true in subjects like the ones we're talking about today, with sociolinguistics and applied linguistics and English language and linguistics, then that's really, really important. So that's great. I see there's a question in the chat about the English requirements. I'm not going to go into those just now because you can find the English requirements, which might vary from degree to degree. So if you look at the entry requirements for the degree that you're thinking of, and the specific question that's been asked in the chat, then somebody has also highlighted the English language requirements for that particular degree program. But more broadly speaking, if you're if English isn't your first language or you haven't studied in English before, then it's well worth going and taking a look at that section of the pages.
Yeah, it's all really clearly spelled out on each of the 3 specific program web pages. So we've got the MSc as represented by our students. We've got the MSc Applied Linguistics, MSc English Language and Linguistics, and MSc Speech Language and Sociolinguistics. And for each of those 3 program pages, there's a dedicated section to English language requirements. What is required for entry onto our programs and how those skills can be demonstrated, what we look for in terms of specific language tests.
Yeah, that's great. There's another comment in the chat which I'm just going to share because I think it's really interesting and lovely, really builds nicely onto what both the students and what Angela have said about the inspiration to pursue masters is a deep love for language and pedagogy, broadening that person's horizon in the transformational language world. And I think that's a really nice way to look at it. So now, though, I'm going to ask the students what your inspiration was to come and do this particular degree, the degree that you're doing in Glasgow. And we'll start off with Alexandra.
First of all, I think that the main thing that was very appealing to me was the specificity of the program. There are a lot of master's programs in linguistics in general that were available in the US, but I had some difficulty finding any that were in sociolinguistics in particular. Given that that has been my long-term passion in linguistics, I was really excited to find that Glasgow had that program. It's also appealing that in contrast to most American master's programs, it is a year-long course, at least for the one that I've selected.
That's great, thank you. So now to Jingyi, what were your particular inspirations to coming here?
I think personally, studying in linguistics can make the best contribution to the curricular improvement. Like I used to have the experience of conducting research on a different course. The branch of students, after the research, they actually changed a lot and gained more from this. So I think the positive contribution from the linguistic studies can really produce some valuable thing for the pedagogy development and also the curriculum improvement. That is something inspired me to take this program. But I really want to do something for my students and use a scientific way.
Great, that's really good. And finally, Katie.
Yeah, so I, like I mentioned, was working in a library. I'm someone who's incredibly fond of research and just like digging around on the internet. And when I read the courses like page, the requirements and how the program was laid out, I really liked what I was reading, but then I did further research into the professors that teach in the program. I was really interested in their specific research areas. Like, I just thought that everything I was reading was so interesting and I really wanted to like chat with these people. And then, so on top of just sort of being interested in it, I know that Glasgow has an incredible manuscript library, and I have done work with medieval manuscripts for my role in libraries. So that was also a big draw, is like finding the things that I'm interested in and seeing those interests like reflected back to me, whether it be resources of the school or the professors in the department and their specific interests. And then also a little maybe slightly different. My younger sibling is also attending a graduate program at the University of Glasgow right now. So we were able to come together. So that was another big draw for me, was knowing that I was going to have an amount of a support system here, really kind of finalized the push.
Yeah, so that's great, Katie. And what degree program is your sibling doing?
Yeah, my sibling is doing the master's, I think it's MLit actually, in dress and textile histories.
Right, okay. That's smashing. That dress and textiles history is super interesting. I'm going to pick up on one of your points about the manuscripts that you've been looking at, and this leads us into university resources a little bit, and this is really where I'm at home because I started off working in the university in the archives. So we have wonderful archives and special collections, which are based over 2 sites. So the top floor of the library, there's one reading room, and there's another reading room the other side of campus. We've got the most amazing collections in archives and special collections. We also have the Hunterian Museum, which is not just the one museum. There's the main Hunterian Museum, but we also have the Hunterian Art Gallery, and there are various other museums like a Zoology Museum and Anatomy Museum across campus. And we're just a stone's throw from the Kelvin Grove Museum. So that's one of Glasgow's city museums. And that sort of cultural heritage is just really, really interesting and really worth taking a time when you're in Glasgow to be able to explore some of that cultural heritage and the built environment. So you can see there's a link on the screen to Kelvin Grove Art Gallery and Museum, and I'm sure that there'll be links for archives and special collections as well. And the Hunterian Museum is just there too. Okay, so we have a question about work and study opportunities for international students. And no matter what program you're on, international students, it really depends on the terms of your visa. So there will be a limited number of hours that you're able to work. And the visa specialists in the university can help out if you have any visa queries, and they're really the experts. So the rules can change quite quickly. So it's probably not wise for me just now in this forum to comment on the number of hours you're allowed to work and that sort of thing. But the visa team, the international student support team, are really, really fantastic, and they have all of that knowledge at their fingertips. So we do have a lot of really good support services at the University of Glasgow. So I'm going to ask Angela if you could perhaps highlight a couple of the support services.
Of course, yeah. I think something... Oh, there are so many, and I'm just trying to think what specifically to foreground. I think first and foremost, something that is absolutely fundamental for the majority, if not all students, is the Student Learning Development Service. This is a team that I have worked quite closely with over the last few years to develop resources to support students' learning. And there are so many things that they offer. So they offer self-paced online courses where you can develop your skills, a number of different skills in terms of your academic development. So it could be things to do with academic writing, it could be reading skills, it could be, I think they do things to do with statistical literacy, it can be good academic conduct and plagiarism avoidance. There are so many different materials and so many different topics that they cover in terms of helping students develop in a number of ways academically, and I can't say enough good things about that particular team. So like I say, they have things like self-paced online courses that students are at liberty to engage with at any particular point in their degree program if there's something they feel would be helpful. I know that they also offer one-to-one sessions with members of staff, so they have experts in that team who are dedicated, trained specialists to helping students with their learning journey. And you can book an appointment with one of those individuals if you're having any specific issues. Again, it might be something to do with academic writing. Maybe you're struggling to understand good referencing practice, for example. You can book a one-to-one appointment and they can offer you that dedicated support. So I can't sing their praises enough. They're a really wonderful team. And so many of our students have benefited from engaging with that particular support service. I think it's also really important to highlight things such as our student counselling service and student disability service. So a lot of our students will have specific challenges that they might be facing in order that they are able to fulfill their potential academically. And these kinds of services can help students with the challenges that they might be facing so that students are able to dedicate themselves to their work and able to achieve what they want to achieve. I think linked to that as well, we do our best as an academic team to offer as much flexibility to students. So for example, if a student is facing sudden adverse circumstances, it could be health, something like that, or a family situation, we do our best to support our students so that they can still continue study in a way and at a pace that makes sense for them and their circumstances. So I think that's just a little snapshot of the kind of support services that we're able to offer at the University of Glasgow.
Yeah, that's great, and I absolutely echo everything that Angela has said. So the Student Learning and Development Service are great, and when you're here, then do make it one of the first things that you do about go and have a look at the classes that they hold and the resources that they are able to offer. I think taught postgraduate courses necessarily, we have to throw you in at the deep end. You're only here for a year. The teaching terms are comparatively short. They feel comparatively short. I know there's a lot that you need to get through in terms of the curriculum that we have to cover as members of staff and in terms of the reading and so on. So knowing what classes and what resources are available for you, that is a really helpful start. Other services like student counselling or the crisis team, we hope that you never need to access those. You never need to find out how good they are, but I know that they are absolutely excellent. Yeah. Services like the disability service, then when you apply and you get your place, if you have previously been registered with the disability service or you have any long-term condition that might possibly affect your ability to do any elementary study, then do register with them as soon as possible.
Can I just add, Adele, there was one other thing that I realised I would like to mention, and it's sort of linked to some of the issues I was raising in terms of what SLD, Student Learning Development, can offer. In English Language and Linguistics, we actually have a bespoke programme, which is I've completely forgotten the specific title of it, but it's English language support and academic writing support, particularly for students in our subject area. So it's a program that has been designed bespoke to support the development of the academic skills and the writing skills and reading skills of students in our subject area particularly. So that's something else that we're really proud of, and I just wanted to highlight that as well. Sorry, Adele, to interrupt.
No, that's brilliant. That's really good. And what a resource available for students.
Advancing English for Applied Linguistics. It just came to me.
Right, brilliant. Good. Okay, so just returning to the questions in the chat, then there's a question from Ayu about the educational background for the Master of Information Management and Preservation. This chat is actually focused on critical studies and in particular on the linguistics type degrees, but you're really in luck because the program I convene, that I mentioned earlier, I convene a program of my own that happens to be the Information Management and Preservation program, so you've come to the right place. So the educational background, it is any degree. I think the wording on the website says any relevant degree, but if you're interested in archives and records, then whatever your first degree is, then that is relevant. Approximately 50-ish% of our students have history first degrees, but we really welcome people with different types of educational background. So is that the case in critical studies as well, Angela? Or do you, for some courses, some programs, do you want students to have particular first degrees?
That's a really great question, Adele. Thanks. So In our programs within the subject area of English language and linguistics, we typically see students coming from quite similar degree backgrounds. So it could be something to do with English language, it might be a linguistics first degree, it could be English literature even. But then we have students who come from other subject areas as well, who are able in their personal statement when they apply to make a really good case for why they are coming from, and I'm trying to think of a good example, coming from it might be something like information studies and why they're now looking to transition into linguistics study. And I think there are some really good cases to be made. We've already heard from the students a little bit about how English language and linguistics touches on so many other subject areas. So I think that it is quite common for us to see students who have done something a little bit different at undergraduate, but are now transitioning into English language and linguistics. And that's where, as I say, you can make that justification in your personal statement to talk about the skills and knowledge that you've developed in your bachelor's degree, your undergraduate degree, and how that is now preparing you to move on to postgraduate study in English language and linguistics.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Thank you very much for that example. And you mentioned the personal statement. Not all programs ask for a personal statement, but if they do, that's because members of staff at the application stage are really interested in what you have to say. Now, we'd say don't overthink it. You know why you want to do that program, and you know what has led you there. So we're just really interested in finding out about that. So do put in a personal statement if it asks for one, because that really just helps academic staff to make that decision and make sure that it's the right program for you, or perhaps recommend alternative programs if they think that perhaps it's you might be interested in something different. So do fill out that personal statement if it's asking for them. So there's a question about reasonable adjustment plans for disabled students. Yes, registering with the Student Disability Service is all about levelling the playing field. It's not about applying adjustments without good cause, but actually it's about levelling the playing field. So if you have a student who has, for example, a visual impairment, and there's an assessment which has been designed which might need very close reading of a particular text, then we'd make adjustments to that. Of course we would, and that applies to anything. But we're not the experts as academic members of staff. It's the Student Disability Service who are absolutely the experts at knowing what those reasonable adjustments could look like, because I've taught on the program I teach on for 20 years, and every year I will still get a student come along and they have perhaps a condition or a need that I haven't experienced before, but the disability service really are the experts. So we go on their advice. So that's why it's really important to make an appointment with them if you think that might apply to you quite early on. Okay, so there's another question about someone looking at filmmaking and media arts. They did fine art bachelor's, graduated in 2022. Did anyone have a break before starting their master's degree? So I'm going to ask our students, did any of you have a break, or did you come straight from your undergraduate degree? So Katie, did you have a break first?
Yeah, so I had a quite lengthy break in between. I graduated from my undergraduate degree in 2018. And it's 2024 now, so it's about 6 years. And it was beneficial for me personally, because when I was at the end of my undergraduate degree, I was not sure what the next step was, and I didn't want to just throw myself into something. And so I feel like coming here, I was very settled on this program, and settled on the choice. So I totally understand potentially being nervous about starting it back up. But you've got this. I mean, it's that thing of you've graduated with an undergraduate degree, which is the prerequisite. If you can do that, you can come into the program, or really any master's program. I really genuinely believe that.
Oh, yeah, that's great. Alexandra, did you have a break?
Yes, so I graduated in the winter of 2022, so I had about 2 years of a break. And I also think I needed that time to really solidify the the reality of getting a master's, how I would make that happen, which schools had the best programs for me. And I think that was for the best for me in particular. And even though I continued like interacting with linguistics and talking about it and reading about it in that time, there was definitely a little fear in the back of my head, like, have I forgotten how to write an academic paper? Have I forgotten how to read properly? But I would say that a month and a half, 2 months into this course, all of those issues are pretty much subsided by now.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. And Xingyi, did you have a break, or did you come straight from your previous degree?
I just came to the University of Glasgow right after the graduation, so there's no break. I think just starting right away just helped me to build a connection with my previous knowledge, and right now I just reconcile them really well.
Yeah, Angela, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, so from my own experiences, I took a year break in between finishing my undergraduate and starting my master's in applied linguistics. This is many years ago, of course. For me personally, I think that was really helpful, kind of similar to what Alexandra and Katie have said. I felt like I needed a little bit of a breather after finishing my undergraduate, so it was really helpful for me to take that little break before coming back for postgraduate study. But as Xingyi has shown, we have students who have both of those experiences and all of whom can be successful. I think it just is the personal preference of an individual. So for some people, it really suits them well to take that break in between those phases of study. They come back refreshed. As Katie says, and as Alexandra has said, you get back into the swing of things quite effectively, quite well, I would say. And for similar students to Xingyi, it can work well just to go straight through, to keep up that momentum, to be able to build immediately in your postgraduate studies on what you've developed in your undergraduate. So all options, I think, in that particular with that particular issue are completely viable, and I think work really well.
Yeah, I think I'd agree with that. And I think that the grass is always greener as well, a little bit. So I think students who've taken a break will be, what if, as Alexandra said, what if I've forgotten how to read and how to write a paper? And but then I think sometimes students who haven't taken a break, everyone else has so much more experience than me, and they're so, they definitely know this is the path for them. Am I in that place of certainty?
Exactly.
And of course, there's pros and cons for both.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's really interesting. I think the differences. So really, no matter whether you're coming straight from your undergraduate degree or you've had a gap of 20 or 40 years since you last studied, it really doesn't matter. But again, that's when you can go and make the most of the resources from the student learning development service, as well as the other resources that we have available for you.
Exactly.
Okay, so just returning to the questions in the chat. So funding opportunities for international students. There are some funding opportunities. Some of these will be available locally from your home country, where there might be local sponsors who are able to sponsor you, and there are other funding opportunities as well. So your best bet is to start off with the course or the program pages on the website, and there's a section on fees and funding. No matter what degree you're looking at, there's a tab for fees and funding that you can click, but also be really inventive and have a look at what might be available from your home country. There are, again, specialist people within the university who are able to advise on that. Next, we've got a question about dissertations. Oh, and Katie and Alexandra and Xingyi, this probably feels like it's a long way off. And I don't want to panic you by suggesting it's not, but have you thought at all about your dissertation? What you'll write for your dissertation. So we'll go first of all to Xingyi.
I think up until now, my strongest interest is still in the individual difference in second language learning. So maybe my focus is on this part, and I will just doesn't figure out a specific topic yet, but I'm still working on it.
Yeah, okay, that's absolutely fine. Katie, have you thought about your dissertation?
Yeah, I definitely have. I also think that, I came into the program with an idea of what I maybe wanted to write my dissertation on. Nothing fully fleshed out, but just some general ideas. I have mentioned medieval manuscripts, digital humanities, et cetera, historical multilingualism. But while being in the program now for about 7 weeks, I've had a little bit of a change of heart. I've been swayed by a couple of my courses, which I was talking with one of the professors on our research training course, Dr. Louis Strange, and he was like, I guess that's proof that we've sort of been doing our job right. And I definitely agree with that. I think being open, like having an idea is wonderful. And this is not me trying to dissuade anyone from having a very clear idea. But I also want to assure people that if you don't have an idea, if you have half an idea, or if you get into a class and your idea changes, that's also a good thing. That's totally reasonable. And the professors here will truly support you with that. I've definitely felt supported through sort of my myriad ideas for a dissertation.
Yeah. So, Alexandra, do you have any ideas yet?
Yeah, so I came in with a muddle of ideas as well. I'm really interested in the dynamics of language change happening on some of the reservations, the Native American reservations in Wyoming. And that was inspired by work by Mendoza Denton on gang identity and language change. So I'm really interested in like opposing communities and the sociolinguistic events happening between them. But similarly to Katie, I recently attended a talk that kind of influenced me in another direction. So I'm also very interested in Spanish and English and the dynamics occurring between them in Texas. So this includes like mock Spanish, identity performance, language discrimination, language ideologies. All of these things are really interesting to me. I also will most likely be living in Texas once I complete this program and return to the States. So that would be extremely pertinent to my surroundings and something I'm really passionate about. So that's kind of where my head is going now with my dissertation, but I would not be surprised if that changes again.
Yeah. And I think that sounds really quite common. Would you say it's common, Angela?
Definitely. I'm so delighted to hear where all of the 3 students are at this stage, and this is exactly what I would expect. So I think it is so normal, even if students start our programs in English language and linguistics with what they think is quite a clear idea of what they might want to research towards the end of their program, I think it changes 10 times before they actually settle on their idea towards the end of semester 2. And I think it was Casey that said, this means that we're doing our jobs, in fact, because what we aim to do across all 3 of the programs in English language and linguistics is give students that breadth of information and training and knowledge development for all of the things that linguistics can mean. So you can really have your eyes open and be quite surprised by the direction that your interests take you. And I think something else to support what our students have been saying is that I'm always trying to encourage the students on my courses to see the connections between the different subfields in linguistics. So as I said, I tend to teach on courses relating to language education, but there are going to be so many connections with colleagues who teach courses in sociolinguistics, for example, as I think Alexandra will be able to attest to for the specific courses she's taking. So I think being able to keep your eyes open, keep your mind open to where your interest might take you, and see quite innovative connections between the different courses that you're taking is exactly what we expect from our students, particularly at this early stage. To answer the question that is specifically in the chat, we would not expect students to have a clear idea of what they're going to do for their master's dissertation at the time of applying. I think at the time of applying, you want to have a really good rationale for the program that you are applying for. So, say it's the MSc Applied Linguistics, you would want to know really clearly in your mind, why that is going to be the right program for you, maybe have an idea about the specific option courses that you might want to take within that program. But in terms of a particular idea for your dissertation, I think that comes at a little bit later stage throughout the program. So I hope that puts your mind at rest, Zara. And to answer the question from Mary Rose as well, just to make clear my specific role, I am the postgraduate convener in the subject area of English language and linguistics. So I oversee our 3 programs, which we have mentioned. So the MSc Speech Language and Sociolinguistics, the MSc English Language and Linguistics, and the MSc Applied Linguistics. I oversee all 3 of those. Each of those programs also has a dedicated program convener as well. So we have Dr. Piotr Wegorowski, who is the program convener for MSc Applied Linguistics. We have Dr. Clara Cohen, who's the program convener for MSc English Language and Linguistics, and Dr. Faith Chu, who is the program convener for MSc Speech, Language and Sociolinguistics. So just to give a bit of a better understanding of the kind of structure of our department and where I sit within that as a member of staff. So that's a really good question, Mary Rose. Thank you for that.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. So we've spoken a lot so far about the university and university support and about the particular courses, but I want us to move now a little bit onto life, because much as you might think I'm here only for a year, I'm going to study. That's great, but you need to be able to relax and have some downtime as well. So I'm going to ask everybody on the call what it is that they like to do to relax. What opportunities has Glasgow given you for that? So we'll start off with Katie, I think.
Yeah, happy to answer this one. So the south side of Glasgow, I live in a flat, and I live right on the edge of Queen's Park, which is a bigger park on the south side. And part of the reason why we chose our flat location was because of the park. I'm a big outdoorsy person. I love to be outside. I love to walk. I like to run. My sibling and I, we both just enjoy being outside. And so what's really nice is just being able to get up in the morning or when you come home from class. Not every day is perfect. Maybe the transportation took longer than you expected it to. And it's nice to just go and de-stress in the park, see all of the dogs, see the various people. So I would just say, like, being out and about and experiencing the city is probably one of my favorite things to do. Glasgow is certainly really just a wonderful people-focused city, and I really have enjoyed getting to know my neighbors. I used to live in New York City, and that was nothing that I had ever done before. And so the idea of being in a big city and getting to know my neighbors has been lovely.
Yeah, and I'd agree. Glasgow is such a friendly city. You might be able to tell from our accents, none of us are originally from Glasgow, but yet we've all made it our home. And Glasgow is amazing for parks. Alexandra, what is it you like to do?
I would say I live in a flat with a roommate as well. She goes to the conservatory here. So I am very lucky in that I get to follow her to a bunch of musical events for her school. And that has been a lovely little relaxation event to look forward to on most weekends. I also have compiled a very long list of restaurants and like food stands and little stores that I'd really like to go to eventually, maybe after all of my assessments are due.
Yeah, the Glasgow food scene is amazing. But you mentioned the conservatoire. So we have in Glasgow the Royal Conservatoire of Scotland, and there's a bit of I suppose, interplay between what they do and what we do. So I know that some members of staff who teach in music here also teach at the Royal Conservatoire. But this brings us on to what I like to do. So I'm jumping ahead of Angela, who is going to ask next. And Glasgow's music scene is really good. No matter what you enjoy, from classical through to jazz, has recently been a Nordic festival on, through to rock and pop. Glasgow is amazing in terms of its music scene. Okay, so Angela, what do you like to do to relax?
Yeah, so I would echo what has already been said. I am always so excited by the restaurant and cafe scene in Glasgow. I, like Alexandra, have a big list of places that I need to go in Glasgow that I haven't yet had a chance to go to. The music scene as well is really important for me. There are lots of big and small bands that come to Glasgow, which is super exciting. But particularly for me, it's getting outdoors for sure. So Glasgow and Edinburgh as well, which I know really well, they both are very green cities. There's lots of outdoor spaces, even in what you would call the city centre. And my big passion is swimming outdoors. So taking advantage of Scotland's coastline, its lakes. It just makes me so happy to be out in nature, in the cold water. I can't think of anything better. If I'm not working, I'm in the sea, for sure.
You're a braver woman than I am, Angela.
It
Braver
makes
than
me
I am.
happy.
Yeah, the sea can get quite cold at times, but we're never that, in Glasgow, we're not that far from the coast. I remember the last chat of this I did, then one of the questions about Glasgow, and if you've got general questions about Glasgow, please do put those in the chat as well. But one of the questions was, how long does it take you to get to the sea? And from the centre of Glasgow, so from Central Station, then you can get a train to Largs or to Gorek, which isn't quite the sea, but certainly it's an estuary. It feels like you're at the seaside at Gorek. To Ayr, there's it's really easy, and you can get there by train, so public transport, in round about an hour quite easily. It's probably around the same time if you drove. Is that right? Would you say, Angela? I'm now trying. I live a bit closer to the sea, so
Yeah, I think that's right. And also, what pleases me about Glasgow is that there are other spaces that are really close, like Loch Lomond. I mean, it's an absolute classic. Probably everyone has heard of it, but it lives up to its reputation. It's so beautiful, and it's also accessible by public transport. Yeah.
So Scotland is a wonderful country to live in, and Glasgow is ideally connected to be able to take you to different places. So Xing Yi, what do you like to do in your free time?
I'm 100% outdoor person. I like photography, so I like take pictures of for my friends. So I have a camera with me, and most of the time I just would like to embrace the fresh air and outside, and to just play with some squirrels in the Coventry Park, and go to the places nearby Glasgow. For example, I recently go to Edinburgh and take some pictures. I also, what is really fascinating to me is also the local work activities here. There are a lot of stuff on the Eventbrite, so we can just buy the tickets to join them. And there's one activity named the torchlight procession, just to across the year. I think this is a really meaningful activity, and to join, to just meet the local people and just have a communication with them just made me really refreshed. So this is, I think, what I do to just keep myself relaxed.
Yeah, and there's absolutely no end of opportunities available. Either opportunities within Glasgow, so going and seeing the bands and the orchestras and the art galleries and the museums within Glasgow itself, or going for a walk in the park, but also the university has the Students' Representative Council, and attached or affiliated to the Students' Representative Council, then there's a huge number of societies. So when you come to Glasgow, no matter what your interests are, there will be at least one, but probably multiple societies that cover what it is that you're interested in. And this is anything from skiing and snowboarding to horse riding to football, so sort of sports and outdoor activities, to ones that are representative of culture. So there are societies around, there's an Indonesian society, and it's not just for people from Indonesia, but for people who are interested in the culture of that area, and the same for a number of different international areas, but also special interest societies. These might relate to courses, so there's societies relating to digital media and information studies, or history, or there's probably English language and linguistics societies. There'll be societies that relate to your academic study, but also to your interests as well. And in the the rare occasion that you come and that society you really want to join doesn't exist yet, well, you can set it up, and it's a brilliant way to be able to make friends. You can see the banner at the bottom of the screen gives us the link to the SLC societies. So really do go and have a look and actually think about what sort of life you'd want to lead as a student here. It's a chance to perhaps consolidate old interests or start new ones. So go and have a browse of the student societies. Then there really is something for everybody. Okay, so we're in our final 5 minutes or so, I think. So I'm going to ask our panel members in a moment what their best bit about moving to Glasgow, study Glasgow itself is. And now's your chance for any last questions that you might have. Okay, so I'm going to start first with Angela. So you're not from Glasgow, but what's the best bit about doing the job that you do in the department that you teach in, or just being here in Glasgow?
Yeah, I think the best part of the job that I do is getting to learn from our students. So I mentioned our really diverse student cohort, and every semester, every year, there's so much that we learn from the teaching that we do with our students, different perspectives on specific complex concepts in our academic work that we might not have considered. Thinking about the ways that our diverse cohorts interact gives you, again, new perspectives on things. So I think that's the favorite part of my job. And I would say that the thing that I'm most proud of in terms of leading the postgraduate cohorts at the University of Glasgow, I think it's the individualized support and attention that we're able to give our students. So to give an example of this, when our postgraduate students arrived during induction week back in September, we offered each student a one-to-one meeting just to talk through how they were settling in, to talk through their option choices within their specific program of study. And we hope that this was something that our students felt was really helpful just for making sure that they were on the right track in those early phases. So I think this is something that I would really love to highlight about our postgraduate offering at the University of Glasgow, is that individualized support and attention that we're able to give. So yeah, thanks for that, Adele. That's what I want to share.
Good. So your final thoughts. So we'll go to Alexandra first.
I would say that overall, it's just really exciting to be back in the field that I really love learning about. And it's nice also that specifically in our program, it is quite a close group for most of the classes. So we not only get to engage a lot with each other during our seminars and during lectures, but also after and from our walks to another class or to the bus station. Those conversations always continue out of class. And that individualized feeling also with the instructors. It's really nice to have, especially coming from quite a large university in the States. So that's probably been my favorite aspect of just, there's a certain familiarity with a lot of the staff and with the students around.
Yeah, that's great. So Xinyi?
Yeah, I think studying abroad itself for me is the most challenging but fascinating part. Yeah, because I'm an international student, it takes a lot of time and effort to just settling and make my life better and be happy with all the things I do. And what I really love about the program is the sense of humanity and family. Ever since I've been here and joined the induction week, I just feel everyone's welcomed, and our faculty and students are really supportive. They care about each other, and it's really easy to get along well with this such a big family. So this is what I think I found the best in my part, because I think studying in an environment really unknown for me is really easy to get lonely and anxious, but it seems like I'm now feeling better with the help of my professors and students, fellow students there.
Yeah, great. Thanks very much. Katie, to you.
Yeah, I'll try not to repeat what everyone just said, because essentially that's the same for me. I think just like from a resources standpoint, I really enjoy moments of like community resource sharing. And so the idea of like being in a program where everyone is generally centered around this one broad interest, but everyone's coming at it differently. Everyone has different experiences. Everyone is different, is like interested in very specific niche, different things. I think that's wonderful and so cool. And it inspires such interesting conversations. Like, yes, we are learning from our professors and the faculty in the department, but we're also really, really learning from each other. And I really, really enjoy that element. And kind of to echo what Shani said, like it can be incredibly isolating to study in another. We are sort of offered this like automatic community of people that like have the same interests. Like, you're gonna find common ground. And so even if you're, you know, maybe worried about the element of interacting with people socially, you know that you have common ground to fall back on. And so they're really just like it's just, there's a huge list of benefits.
That's smashing. Thank you so much, everybody, for that. Just looking through the questions in the chat, I think we've answered pretty much all of them. There's a couple of questions about applications for specific programs, and in that case, your best bet is to go and have a look at the program pages, and there will be contacts that you can get in touch with for that, and the link is on the bottom of the screen as well. So if you're worried about your application or about any aspect of your application, then you will find contact details there. There's someone asking for what I do. I'm not in charge of the English language or linguistics degree, but instead I've got a college role where I get the chance to oversee all the really good, wonderful work that our staff and our students are doing on the different programs that we have. But Angela is in overall charge of postgraduate taught courses within this area of study. So hopefully we've answered all of your questions. It's been really, really interesting having the chance to chat to everybody who's on the call today, and thank you so much for your questions, and we really look forward to welcoming you to Glasgow very soon. Okay, thank you very much, everybody.